Hello and welcome. A little while ago, I got really interested in games that talk about rewinding time. Some use it in their stories, others as a game mechanic, some make clever use of it as a way to save player progression and allow coming back to any point in time rather than fixed checkpoints. So I thought, what would it take to make a little game that allows the player to rewind time? I'm Leonard, by the way, and this is Useless Game Dev. I started by setting up a simple scene in Unity, with a simple character. They can move around freely and encounter obstacles. Some are static, some can be moved and are subjected to the world's physics. The first thing we'd want to do next is to record what happens during gameplay, and the most obvious thing to start with is the position of dynamic objects. So let's start by implementing a transform recorder that would hold the information of position and rotation of a single object for every frame of the game. This way, we can stick it on any game object and record the transform properties. I don't need to record scale in my case, so let's simply set up two lists, one for positions and one for rotations. Every frame we add the current position and rotation to the respective list, so we can come back to them in the future. Doing this every frame seems like a bit of a waste. I wonder if that's going to become a problem later. Now, to play these records back, we need to start working on what we will call the playback controller. It will be a class that manages all of those transform recorders and tells them to play a certain frame back. It has two states, playback and recording. Recording is the default, free state where we'll let the game follow its normal course, and where recorders will record properties every frame. Playback is when we wish to override the values of the transform properties and force them to be in the same state as they were at an arbitrary frame, in which case we don't want to be recording. There's frames and frames, so we're going to write down a quick definition of what we will call a game frame and a Unity frame. A game frame is what happens during our game, and this flow of frames we want to record, pause, rewind, fast forward or restore at any point in time. Meanwhile, Unity frames are the regular frames rendered by the engine, and we don't want to pause or rewind those, nor can we for that matter. When in playback state, every Unity frame, the playback controller asks all transform recorders to restore the properties of the transform at the current game frame being played back. If the player rewinds to a previous point in time and then switches back to recording mode, we need to erase all existing records beyond this point, as they will be rewritten. We should be good to go at this point. I added a few controls to pause, rewind, fast forward and start recording, as well as a tape recorder effect, which is definitely still a thing in 2024, and I must say it already looks pretty good. We can record the position of dynamic objects. However, when we stop the game while a dynamic object is launched into the air and then resume the game, it looks like physical properties of the object, such as the momentum, aren't restored. Which makes sense, because we need to record what's happening inside rigid body components also. So we're going to make a rigid body recorder, right? To go along our transform recorder. But first I think it's time to create a more generic way to record any motor behavior component, so we're going to make a generic recorder class to hold the common recorder code. It doesn't look like much here because I removed all the housekeeping stuff like registering the recorder in the playback controller. But now, the playback controller can store generic recorders and we can make the transform recorder inherit from that class as well. Much cleaner. And now we can start working on our rigid body recorder. Similarly to the transform recorder, it needs to store two lists, one for velocity and one for angular velocity. Recording is also fairly simple, and since the rigid body is in kinematic mode during playback, we're only restoring momentum when exiting playback mode. And that is a major feature as far as our character is concerned. Now, you know there's always a part in these videos where we talk optimization. I make a first draft that works but runs like garbage, and then we struggle to sort it out. In this case, storing all of this information, every frame for every object, it comes at a cost. A compute cost, but also a cost in RAM. Each dynamic object saves a position, rotation, velocity, and angular velocity. Supposing a vector 3 is worth 3 floats, which it is, and a quaternion is worth 4 floats, you then have 14 floats per object per frame. The size of a float in memory is 4 bytes. That's 56 bytes per object per frame, and that's not even counting whatever room is consumed by the components we store these in. At this rate, we're going towards an out-of-memory exception fast. If you have, say, a level where 2000 dynamic objects are scattered around the area, then hold on. Let's create a scene that does just that. The thing is, we're not even interacting with every object at every frame, and that's where we can improve things. Maybe we only need to record stuff that needs recording. If an object that never moves hasn't changed its properties since the last frame, why bother recording the same values a second time and a third time and so on? I need a new data structure to hold the records. Lists just ain't gonna cut it. So we can start by changing them into a custom records registry structure, which I called frame record container. It consists of a dictionary indexed by an integer. This way I can store the record corresponding to each frame with potential gaps between records. We can then get a frame value, set a frame value, and purge all values after a certain time. Then we need to add a method in each recorder to tell if the properties of the component being recorded differ from the last record. If they are identical, we can skip the redundant recording. Now that we have gaps in our records, we have to adapt the get method of the frame record container. When asked to fetch the record of a certain frame, if the frame is missing, I use the naive way of finding among the available frames the highest frame that was below the frame that we asked for, simply by going through all records backwards. Let's go on a little tangent about this lookup strategy. It's not very effective. At first I figured it was good enough for the scope of this video, but still I decided to write a few test cases to measure the time it would take to fetch, say, 1000 random frames from a list with 10,000 elements, with various sized gaps. The naive method iterates over every key of the dictionary, starting from the highest. In the worst case scenario, it iterates all the way back to the first record. It thus has a linear complexity. I then tried to use Link's findLast function, and unsurprisingly, it yielded 30% better time performance. The next step was to convert the list of frames into an array. My thought was that, arrays being notoriously more performant than lists, it would work better. But for some reason, once turned into an array, the naive method became faster than array.findLast. The results were there. I was already boasting a 65% improvement in my algorithm and was ready to move on, when I thought about implementing a dichotomic search algorithm or binary search. I wasn't really expecting it to be all that different. Despite the theoretical logarithmic complexity, I always thought it was more of a theoretical thing you learn in school and felt like it's pretty rare to see them in the wild. Boy was I wrong. The difference was so drastic, at first I thought my code was broken because it ran nearly instantaneous on my CPU compared to other methods. It was so incredibly faster than the naive implementation. This last line isn't just theoretical too. Over a long gaming session, I can totally imagine an object like the player having 100,000 frames of position records. Though maybe in this case the game design should limit how far in the past you can rewind or something. Flabbergasted but content, I figured I could turn the page on optimization. Now that the system isn't recording at all until I interact with objects, I know I have a scalable and efficient recording system, even if the game should still by design limit the total amount of values that can be stored by limiting the amount of dynamic objects on scene. We now have an efficient way of storing and looking up data in a generic recorder template. That's great because we can progressively implement recorders for each component we will use in our game. For instance, the animator component. I sort of lied earlier when showing you the footage, because without an animator recorder, by default, rewinding puts the character back to idle state. So I whipped up a very basic animator recorder. It records the name of the current state and the normalized time inside the current state. It works well enough for my simple animator in this test project. Of course, a proper animator recorder would need to be able to record the state of parameters and handle complex situations like blend trees and stuff. But I think this is a good enough proof of concept for now. Alright, so every component that has an effect over time should have its recorder counterpart. Some components will be tedious or even impossible to record, but maybe they can be swapped for components that are easier to write a recorder for, such as component that animates objects based on a function of time. There might be a bonus video about that available soon for Patreon supporters. I think this video is coming to an end. I really enjoy games about time manipulation, and it was interesting to try and make my own time rewind feature. If you made it this far, thank you very much for watching. Until next time, if you have played an interesting game that centers around time and or time travel, please let me know in the comments. Have a good one!